So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our participants, and happy International Women's Day to all of you. Welcome to our regional webinar on Women in Research and Extension, Advancing Gender Equality in Innovation. My name is Martina Spisiakova, and I work as Knowledge Management Coordinator at the Asia Pacific Association of Agriculture Research Institutions, APARI. And I will be moderating today's webinar and getting you involved in the dialogue with our inspirational speakers from the region. So APARI has organized this event in partnership with the Asia Pacific Islands Rural Advisory Services Network called APIRAS and also FAO. And what better day for us to celebrate women in innovation across the Asia Pacific region than today's International Women's Day. So in addition to our inspiring guests from the region, we also have with us diverse men and women, organizations and networks that are supporting the important roles that women are playing in innovation and also helping to create the environment for these women to be successful. So the webinar agenda is shown on the screen. And the webinar aims to inspire and mobilize change to help advance women's role as innovators in their respective areas of research and extension to ensure their meaningful and inclusive contribution to the transformation of agri-food systems in Asia and the Pacific. So what we aim to do today is really to raise awareness on key challenges and opportunities that women are facing in research and extension, share good practices and inspiring stories of these women, and discuss what needs to be done to address the challenges that women are facing in these areas of innovation. So during the meeting, please keep your video and audio off, of course, except for the speakers. And at the time when you would like to engage, please raise your hand and wait to be called. And you can also make your intervention through the chat box at any time. So we will be addressing these written comments with the help of my colleagues. And finally, this meeting is being recorded to enable us to prepare the synthesis for wider dissemination. So now to start the webinar, we can start with the welcoming statements. And I would like to invite our first guest, Dr. Sasireka Rajendran. She's the project manager for APARI. Sasireka, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina. It is a great privilege and honor for me to provide welcome remarks on behalf of APARI in today's webinar on women in research and extension, advancing gender equality in innovation. I welcome all the speakers from Fiji, Bhutan, India, Indonesia, Thailand, and Iran. I greatly appreciate APARI and APIRA's effort in having such a great mix of women researchers and administrators from the Asia Pacific region for today's webinar. I'm equally excited as you are to listen to the talk show that is going to be moderated by Ms. Martina Spisiakova, our Knowledge Management Coordinator. On this International Women's Day, knowing and listening to the success stories of women from the Asia Pacific region is a great reflection on APARI's mandate to ensure women have their voices heard and make a bigger contribution to the agricultural systems. APARI always acts as a forum where women and youth can make bigger contribution in agricultural system. We are able to achieve our mandate by assuring participation of women administrators, scientists, and extension activists in all the projects that we implement. There are millions of women in the world with more talents and courage than us who have joined the webinar today. We have something half the people did not get, an opportunity. It is not always easy to find an opportunity for us to prove ourselves and work towards our goals. I could confidently say that every one of us joined here have provided our 100% to get where we are as an individual. I would like to take the great opportunity on the Women's Day to acknowledge the women who have shaped my career in APARI, Ms. Martina Spisiakova. Besides giving me the opportunity, she is also a great mentor I could ask for. I have learned how acknowledging the work done by an individual could motivate them to do better. In APARI, we always give a space to be creative and convey our ideas in an open forum. When I joined APARI as an intern before 1.5 years, I was curious to know how international organizations worked and how projects were managed. This curiosity helped me involve myself more in the work and sustain my position in APARI for a while now. As a woman, we all feel tired and exhausted at times with so much multitasks we do. It is very important that we spend some time for ourselves to bounce back and cope up with our day-to-day activities. I would like to close my remarks by highlighting Marie Curie's quote that nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to understood. Now it is a time to understand more so that we may fear less. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. Again, I'm always blessed and privileged to be a part of APARI. Over to you, Martina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Asirika, for this inspiring statement. And thank you, of course, for mentioning me. You have been a great mentee as well. So it's been it's been my pleasure really to mentoring you throughout your work in APARI, and of course in the future as well. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Ms. Namisha Mitchell, who is the lead researcher for Center for Research and Innovation and Science Policy, or called CRISP, and APIRAS, that has co-organized this webinar with APARI and FAO. So Namisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martina. And after Sasireka's remark, not much is left for me to kind of, say, but a very warm welcome to all of you who have, to all the speakers, the participants of this webinar on Women in Research and Extension on behalf of the Asia Pacific Island Rural Advisory Services Network, APIRAS. So we are a network of extension advisory services under the GFRAS, the Global Forum for Rural Advisory Services. And we operate through our 5 sub-regional networks in the Asia Pacific, spread over South Asia, the Southeast Asia, the Mekong, Central Asia, and the Caucasus, and the Pacific Islands. So we came into being in 2011 to serve as a platform for networking, advocacy, and capacity building for agricultural extension and rural advisory services professionals and institutions in the Asia Pacific region. Today, as all of us have gathered here to observe the International Women's Day and celebrate womanhood, through this webinar, we wanted to hear from women, especially those who have made a difference through their work in food systems transformation. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow is the theme for 2022, and rightly so. As we are approaching 2030 very quickly, and in the quest for achieving several sustainable development goals, especially SDG 2, which is all about end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Making progress on SDG 5, which is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, is critical. We have to make sure that no one is left behind. Extension and advisory services are positioned not only to contribute to food systems transformation, but also be gender transformative at the same time. Today, we have with us very eminent speakers who have not only been exemplary professionals, but women who have made a difference through their work. Look forward to learning from their experiences and insights. And I'm sure that many of the participants of this webinar are themselves, they can contribute a lot to the conversation here today. And we are very happy to co-organize this event with APARI with support from the TAP AIS project. A great thanks to FAO for supporting this activity. And again, a very warm welcome to all of you for this interesting event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Namisha, for this encouraging welcoming. And these statements just remind us that our work to promote women in innovation is not just today, but is actually every day to help drive this agenda forward. And this does not only include women that are developing and promoting new agricultural technologies, but also those that are leading and contributing to strategic changes or innovation programs in their institutions, those who are managing research, training, working with farmers, but also those that are facilitating innovative partnerships and many other contributions that I'm sure will be mentioned today when we talk to our speakers. So now to get us started on the webinar topic, I would like to invite Dr. Nora Omot, Policy Coordinator at APARI, to present some evidence on women in research, extension, and innovation, especially based on her work with the Agriculture Science and Technology Indicators project. Nora, the floor is yours. Thank you. And I will ask my colleague to share Nora's presentation. Thank you.
Martina, I'm sharing.
Oh, great.
Can you see?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks very much. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. To set the scene, this presentation
Sorry,
will
Nora,
give
can you please enlarge? Can you please make it full screen? Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Okay, yes. So this presentation will give an overview of the Asia Pacific women in research and extension and their contribution to innovation. So we start by having a brief highlight on the important role women play in agriculture and the gaps in technologies and advice that are tailored to their needs. So we see that rural women are responsible for producing over 55% of food grains as well as other food crops. They comprised 67% of the total agricultural labor force, and they have varying role from country to country. For example, Asian women contribute to about 50% of food production. But we also see that women in rural women receive only 5% of all agriculture extension services. They're less recognized as farmers in their own right due to social norms and institutions. They're less literate than men. They have different information needs and preferences and often missed out on new information technologies and practices. Their responsibilities and decision-making power within the household is often ignored, which also lead to low adoption of technologies. Many areas in the region are still culture sensitive, and agricultural scientists and extension workers, women workers are really key to delivering the important extension services that can fill the gaps faced by the women farmers. So women have made significant contribution to research and extension over the decades, but their contribution to innovation is still often minimized or neglected. So the following slides will highlight the research capacity and contribution of women researchers to innovation and the challenge and the opportunities that women in extension faced. So in this slide, we see the distribution of researchers in Asia Pacific region, but I will focus on the women contribution. So female researchers offer unique perspectives and skills that can help research institutions more effectively address the specific challenges of farmers in Asia Pacific, as we know the majority of whom are female. In recent years, the overall share of female agricultural researchers was considerably higher in Southeast Asia, which was 49% in 2017, than in other developing regions around the world, such as Africa, south of the Sahara. They had 24% in 2014. South Asia had 20% in 2016-17. West Asia and North Africa at 34% in 2012, and Latin America and the Caribbean at 36% in 2013. In South and Southeast Asia, female participation is lowest in Pakistan and Nepal, as we see from this graph, but just 11% and 19% of agricultural researchers respectively were women as of 2012 in Pakistan and 2016 in Nepal. In contrast, we see that Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, and Sri Lanka employed higher numbers of female researchers than male researchers. But we also see from Myanmar, and in fact, nowhere in the world is the share of female researchers higher than in Myanmar. In 2017, this was 71%. Whereas the country's high rate of female participation may appear positive at face value, the underlying reason is a cause for concern. Civil servant salaries in Myanmar are so low that they are insufficient to support a family and hence act as a disincentive to the employment of predominantly male household heads. Consequently, research positions mainly attract female participants. We also see that a growing number of women across Southeast Asia have made advances in agricultural research in recent years. At many agricultural faculties across the region, female students outnumber male students, resulting in a steady influx of young female researchers into R&D agencies. And this is reflected here in the graph on the right, where we see that female researchers have actually increased in numbers between 2003 and 2017. Despite these positive developments, in a number of countries, women remain much less likely to hold PhD degrees than their male colleagues. In Cambodia, as of 2017, just 8% of agricultural researchers with PhD degrees were female, while in Nepal in 2016 and Pakistan in 2012 had only 10% of researchers with PhD. 10% researchers with PhD were female. In Vietnam in 2017, only 4 PhD qualified researchers were female, which is remarkable given that nearly 50% of the country's researchers, that is the combined total of those with Bachelor of Science degrees, Master's degrees, and PhD degrees were female. Moreover, women remain less likely to hold management positions than their male colleagues throughout the region. The vast majority of government research institutions and university faculties are still headed by men, which means that women have less influence in priority setting and policy-making processes, potentially creating a bias in decision-making. These data indicate that notwithstanding recent progress, most countries still have a long way to go to approach true gender balance. Across the region, government organizations employ a large number of female researchers than any other research organizations. But we see here that in India and in Philippines, about 64% and 60% of female researchers respectively were employed at the higher education sectors. Lesser numbers were employed by the not-for-profit organizations. This slide shows the distribution of female researchers by the commodity groups and the crop categories. So in 2016, on average, more than 40% of agricultural researchers in the region were involved in crop research. We see in the blue color here, while 14% were involved in livestock and 9% in forestry research. The remaining female researchers concentrated their attention on fisheries, natural resources, socioeconomics, or other areas. In crop research, around 36% of female researchers engage in cereal research, especially rice research, and this is more so in Cambodia and Laos, where the research agendas are rice-centric. We see that 22% of female researchers engage in horticulture and 13% on oil crop. For women in extension, they face a number of challenges. It is documented that only 15% of the world's agriculture extension agents are women. They receive low funding for extension services. They have to deal with cultural perceptions about the role of women in society when delivering extension services. Information they provide may not be accepted by male farmers due to cultural perceptions. But there are also many opportunities and success stories about women doing extension. It has been found and documented also that women extension officers can provide quality extension services when trained on subject matters. They provide better extension services to women farmers in culture-sensitive areas, and they develop innovative ways to provide extension services. And successful stories of some innovative women in research and extension will be explored at the talk show today. That is all, and thank you very much for your attention. Over to you, Martina.
Thank you so much, Nora. Thank you for these interesting pieces of evidence of women in research and extension in Asia and the Pacific. And the figures that you have just shown, they really tell us that a lot of work has already been done. For example, you mentioned Southeast Asia, but there really still a lot that needs to be done in order to motivate women to lead and be part of these agriculture innovation processes in diverse ways. So we still have a long way to go. So Nora, if you could please stop sharing the screen and I will go back to mine. Okay, can you see it? Good.
Yes, Martina, it's visible.
Okay, so thank you so much. So now I think we're going to move to our to our key session today, which is a talk show on making a difference in, hang on, I should have a slide showing all the speakers. Okay, it's not there, doesn't matter. Yes, so we're going to we are moving to the next session. We will be meeting our 6 extraordinary women from Asia and the Pacific, who will be sharing their stories in their experience working in innovation in the context of research and extension. And I would like to thank them for accepting our invitation. So I will be introducing them one by one. And I will start with Ms. Flavia Ciribello, who is joining us from the Pacific. Flavia is a gender and value chain advisor at the Land Resources Division of the Pacific Community. She's been working on a program called Pacific Organic and Ethical Trade Community. And Flavia has been very passionate about institutional changes. So she was working in Cambodia and Kenya before joining the Pacific. And she has a lot of experience in really providing mentorship, technical advice, and various support, various level of support in programs by integrating gender issues to support women. So welcome, Flavia. Then we have Ms. Saila Balapanda, who is the project lead for land rights and forest-based livelihoods in Pradhan, India. And many of you who joined us from India must know Pradhan. It's one of India's lead NGOs in the area of agricultural development. Saila Bala has been working mainly with rural communities, really trying to enhance women's position in terms of acceptance of their acceptance as landowners, as farmers and entrepreneurs. So welcome, Saila. Then we have Ms. Tanka Maya Pulami coming from Bhutan. Tanka is Deputy Chief Agriculture Officer at the Agriculture Research and Development Center under the Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Forest. Tanka has been mainly working in research, but with farmers. She's been involved in technical programs that are facilitating technology and knowledge transfer to the farmers. So welcome, Tanka. Then we have Dr. Lali Nuriyati, who is the director of the Indonesian Center for Agriculture Training at the Indonesian Agency for Agriculture Extension and Human Resource Development under the Ministry of Agriculture in Indonesia. Dr. Lali is very passionate about data and especially integrating data in in policy making and decision making. She's been leading training programs across Indonesia in her training in her center in Indonesia. Welcome, Dr. Lali. Then we have Ms. Chatnapa Komarwood. She's a director of Praia Agriculture Research and Development Research Center at the Department of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperatives in Thailand. Ms. Chatnapa is very passionate about innovation in coffee. She was leading various programs on development of new coffee varieties and helping farmers in the production, in the adoption, and also upgrading these coffee varieties. So welcome, Ms. Chatnapa. And the last speaker is Dr. Mariam Hosseini Chalester, who is coming from Iran. Dr. Mariam is head of Rice Research Institute of Iran under the Agriculture Research Education and Extension Organization. Ms. Mariam is very passionate also about research. She has wide experience in especially in breeding programs in terms of rice. And yeah, she's heading this very important institute of Iran and focusing on research and innovation. So welcome all of you. Oops, sorry, I was not supposed to show this one. And I think we can start our talk show. So I would like to invite all the speakers to put their videos on, okay? And I will, okay, great. I think I can see all of you. We have Mariam, we have Saila Bala, Chatnapa, okay, great. Okay, so ladies, welcome to our webinar. And we are all very excited to have you here with us and hear your insights, your challenges and experiences as women who are really advancing the innovation and development agenda, but also, of course, advising other women and mentoring them during your experience. So I have one question to all of you, to each one of you. I would like to ask you to tell us very briefly your personal story, how you got involved in innovation in your current position, and what innovation means to you. And I think I will go first to the Pacific, which is the furthest. Flavia, what is your story?
Thanks a lot, Martina, and happy International Women's Day to everyone. As you mentioned during the introduction, I'm the gender value chain advisor at the Pacific Organic and Ethical Trade Community, also known as POETCOM. We are a no-profit membership organization promoting organic agriculture across the Pacific. And as a gender value chain advisor, my role is ensuring that gender is systematically integrated throughout all our area of work, ethical governance, policy, and programmatic area. And I played a similar role also in Cambodia and in Kenya, but in different organizations. So at the beginning, I was working more in a gender space, and then I moved out from the gender space to join more agricultural organizations. So also the approach to gender was completely different. When I joined the agricultural space, the skills and the capacities of my colleagues were more technical in terms of agriculture, but not always in terms of social issues. And in some cases, I was the only one working to promote the gender equality and social inclusion agenda. So when I think about my personal story and the definition of innovation as a process of innovating, I would say that innovation for me has been the process of bringing in a different perspective, the social one within agriculture. When we talk about gender and agriculture, we are not adding something new to the existing reality, but we are really looking at the reality from a different perspective. So the process of bringing a new perspective implies creating a new space for a deep reflection, for new questions challenging the reality as it is, for new and different voices to be heard, and to new opinions, different expertise to be valued.
Okay, thank you, Flavia. Now I can see that you have been working really a lot by integrating this system perspective in your work, and this is exactly what we are working on also in APARI together with APIRAS and FAO. So I'm very happy that you mentioned that. Thank you. Okay, so from the Pacific, I will go to Southeast Asia, and I would like to ask Kunchatnapa from Thailand. What's your story?
Thank you, Ms. Martina. And hello, everyone. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you for the question. I would like to introduce my job. I was the leader of Coffee Arabica project since 2010 to the present. Department of Agriculture released 2 new varieties, Chiang Rai 1 and Chiang Rai 2. And on December 2021, last year, and we propose another 1 variety in 2022. This variety, Department of Agriculture breeding team used 46 years on breeding program for rust resistant. Why we do for rust resistant? Nowadays, the impact of climate change was on Arabica coffee was 1 case disease, rust and anthracnose, which pathogen was developed. Rust in Arabica coffee was the important disease in the world. I did also have breeding program in Arabica coffee for anthracnose resistant too. It has just started for 6 years ago, and the other job that's in macadamia nut. I did on breeding program on macadamia for varietal type of selection line of macadamia nut in Thailand since 2006. Now we have the progeny line for the future release variety. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chatnapa, for introducing your job. It's very interesting to hear about this development of coffee Arabica in Thailand, because I know that it's been a very successful initiative, and you have contributed a lot to that. So thank you for this intervention. And now I would like to ask Ibu Leli from Indonesia. Ibu Leli, what's your story?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Now I would like to introduce myself first. As Martina said, that now I'm a director of the Indonesian Center for Agricultural Training. But starting in 2019 until 2021, I was the director of the Indonesian Agriculture Extension Center. Therefore, extension workers or extension services is our job description. And then we have more than 70,000 extension workers around Indonesia. Indonesia is a big country, so it is not easy to give the extension services to more than 30,000 farmers in Indonesia. And also Indonesia is the big country with more than 13,000 islands. So at that time in 2019 and starting 2020, we have the COVID-19. At that time, as the extension workers, they cannot do to give the advice or transferring the knowledge, as well as how can they meet the farmers directly. Therefore, we need new ideas. We need innovation to do the extension with the new methodology. Therefore, at that time, we developed the new extension methodology using digitalization, using technology information by creating our system, and we call it Kostratani, Komando Strategi Pertanian. It means the strategic command for agriculture. Indonesia has 35 provinces, 514 districts, 7,000, more than 7,000 sub-districts, and more than 70,000 of sub-districts. Therefore, if one district, one extension worker, then we have more than 70,000 of extension workers, and only 20,000 from 70,000 extension workers are women. Therefore, we need to accelerate how they can improve the knowledge and also transfer from the researcher about the agriculture technology to improve the productivity as well as production. At that time, we established the system to connect from the center in the Ministry of Agriculture directly to the center of the extension we call it Kostratani or BPP, Balai Penyuluhan Pertanian, or Agriculture Extension Institution in the sub-district area. So using the system that we use digitalization and technology information, so we can connect from the center directly to the sub-district. Now we have more than 6,000 of the BPP, so we can connect and we can talk directly from the minister to the all extension workers in Indonesia. So I think this is the innovation that we have been made to make easier in the process of the extension. Now we have 5 the virtual activities for the extension, like Mentan Sapa Petani Penyuluh, or we call it Minister Talking to the Agriculture Extension. So we do that every Friday. and all the extension workers from the all Indonesian areas in the sub-district or in the villages can talk to the minister. And also now we are doing for the trainings using the virtual. So we can increase the capacity of the extension workers. So we cannot do again face-to-face or offline. So it is very effective because we can transfer the knowledge, transfer the experience with the very small cost. And now we are doing the 1 million farmers and also extension training. So this is, I think, the innovation that we have been done since 2021, and we will continue every 2 months to do the training for more than 1 million farmers and extension. So in my mind and in the future, I hope that innovation is the new ideas using the technology to increase not only the productivity, but also the production for the all commodities in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Lali. It's very interesting to learn about these changes that are happening in the extension system in Indonesia. And it would be even more interesting if you could maybe share with us some documentation or some success stories that are emerging from this experience.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we now move to South Asia, and I would like to ask Ms. Saila Bala from India to tell us her story.
Thank you, Martina. And hi, everyone. Greetings from India. And I am Saila, a development professional working in Pradhan. Pradhan stands for Professional Assistant for Development Action, and it is a national level NGO and working in the Central Eastern Tribal Belt of India. And the place where we work ranks lowest in the multidimensional poverty index. And our vision is to create a just and equitable society. And coming to my story, journeying in Pradhan was not in my plan. I selected in university campus, and I thought to take a short exposure in Pradhan and return back and continue my higher studies. And I had a plan to stay maximum 15 days in Pradhan. But during my initial years, and I got a exposure in Pradhan, I got exposure to see the poverty, the discrimination, the hunger very closely. And I felt disturbed, and there was an internal call in me to stay in Pradhan and contribute for the poor community. And since then, I am in Pradhan, and this journey from 15 days to more than 15 years has been a meaningful journey. And over the years, I have worked in many frontiers like collectivization of women, and once the women come into different collective and bringing their perspective and shifting their perspective from the identity of labor to a farmer, and organizing women farmer producer groups, and developing their capabilities, their mindset, and how they can play a critical role in every step of the value chain. And they have a greater access and control over the money. But after a certain period of time, what I have realized that the lack of land ownership is making women more vulnerable. Then I started working on the land rights, and I saw that when there is ownership on the land, every other things fall into place. And she has access to agricultural input, credit, market, and more expenditure goes in the family well-being. And then I started working on the securing ownership on the forest land. Forest is the dearest home for many of the tribes, and in India, nearly 200 million of forest dwellers can get ownership on 86 million acres of forest land in 1.7 lakh of Indian villages. So in this context, the innovation that Pradhan is bringing, we are feminizing the entire implementation. How the village council can get involved in identifying the vulnerable women in the community, how they can support the vulnerable women to claim their land, and how they can get a title in own name or in the community name. And also we are bringing different type of mobile-based application for land mapping, demarcation, and documentation. And more important is that how women can play a greater role in the village governance, and how women can play active role in protecting, conserving their forest, and how they can come up with sustainable livelihood practices that will not only ensure the food security or nutrition security, but will make village a better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ala, for sharing your interesting story. You're very lucky to be working on the ground with these farmers, with these women, so you can see it really like as it's happening. And again, it would be very interesting also to see the documentation of how this, like how some of the success stories are emerging from this process. But I'm sure we can learn more about this in this webinar from you. Now let us hear from Tanka from Bhutan. Tanka, what is your story? Please unmute yourself. You are still muted. Oh.
Hello, Kujisampola. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. I'm Tanka Mayapulami from Bhutan. I work in one of the agriculture research and development center in Bhutan. For us, researcher, agriculture innovation is just a new idea, technologies released from the organization or from individual to ease farmers' problem, to increase production as well as to with enhancing quality. Agriculture research centers in Bhutan are mandated to development of demand-driven innovation and appropriate technologies. As I head research communication unit in my center, I am involved to transfer this new research innovation and technologies to farmers, directly to farmers for adoption. I also served as the first contact to the client district extensor for technical backstopping and capacity development. So that way I am involved in transferring this innovation, which my center release. I also had the privilege of serving as a counterpart to one of the important World Bank supported project in my area called Food Security and Agriculture Productivity Project since 2018. So some of the innovation and technologies released from our center and also from our sister centers are taken to project site for farmers' fields. And farmers have readily accepted most of the innovation since there is positive impact in agriculture farming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanka. Thank you for sharing this experience. It's very interesting also to learn about Bhutan and how things are working in terms of research and extension in the context of these institutions. Thank you. And now I would like to move to Ms. Mariam from Iran to share her story.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good day. I'm Mariam Hosseini, Chalester, Director General of Rice Research Institute of Iran. Congratulations on International Women's Day to all women in the world. I'm glad to have participated in this webinar and to tell my personal story. I was born in one of the central cities of Iran. My father was a military man and my mother was an artist. I had no experience in agriculture. I was not familiar with the village environment. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in plant breeding and genetics, I was immediately accepted for a master's degree in the same field. At the same time, I met a man who was studying agriculture mechanization and was from a village in northern of Iran. I married this man and moved to north of Iran. More than 400,000 hectares of rice are cultivated in the northern of Iran, and the north of Iran very beautiful and green. So I decided to my master thesis on rice and live in north of Iran, a beautiful city of Rasht forever. I had no experience of paddy fields and contact with farmers. At that time, 23 years ago, hello?
We can hear you, Mariam. Please go ahead.
At that time, 23 years ago, the number of graduated women in agriculture were rare. In fact, I entered the research and development of rice through my master thesis, and I faced many challenges, which I will say later. But I was not disappointed, and I insist on my goals and work hard. I'm happy that I achieved my goal in my work and my personal life. In the field of agricultural research and development, if women are given equal opportunities and supported, they can innovate. Changing attitude and technical training can train empowered women. Thank you, Martina.
Thank you so much, Mariam, for this inspiring story about how you got involved in innovation, especially since you did not have the background with your family and parents in agriculture. Very interesting story. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the stories have been very, very interesting that we have already heard from all of you. And we can see that, everyone's professional and personal journey is unique. But sometimes it can also be a lonely experience, also a challenging experience. And I'm sure it would be very interesting for our participants to learn about these challenges that you have been facing in your work. So I would like to now talk very briefly about experiences that you have had in research extension and promoting institutional change. And maybe we can start with research, and I can start with Kun Chatnapa. Kun Chatnapa, in your research and innovation work, what was your main challenge as a woman who is trying to really bring impact on small farmers? And how did you overcome these challenges?
Thank you. In the development of Arabica coffee in Thailand, which is an imported plant since 1849, at the beginning, there was an outbreak of rust disease. It caused Arabica coffee was freeze in the first period. In the Arabica coffee team of the Department of Agriculture, the first researcher group were the plant pathologists who pioneered the work in the first period to obtain coffee cultivar that were resistant to rust, and research and develop continuously. For selection in breeding program until F7 in nowadays, we got a lot of problem on policy and budget continuously. The Department of Agriculture has released Chiang Mai 80 Arabica coffee since 2007 to give the opportunity for the Hill tribe people to grow coffee instead of the opium. Department of Agriculture follow the policy of the King Rama IX. I was one woman of the team, who most of them were men, that entered the area to transfer technology on the good agricultural practice on Arabica coffee. We entered to the village of the Hill tribe in the target area to transfer technology to learning, accessibility, and understanding, with the hope that the Hill tribe people will be aware of the new alternative according to the Royal Initiative, and to make understanding of how to plant, when must apply the fertilizer, and make the understanding on pruning technique or continuous productivity, and made them understand on pest management, harvesting on initial processing, so that the Hill tribe people has access to produce quality products. It was not easily. Mainly working area were at an altitude of about 700 to 1,300 meters above sea level, which were inconvenient on logistics and the others. We entered to the village of the hill tribe in the target area to transfer technology to learning, accessibility, and understanding. For me, this was a challenging opportunity to join the team in the early stage. And later, I was responsible for the Arabica coffee project. The one of my pride were the access to the transfer of coffee production technology of the Hill tribe people. The first is brand Lazy Man Coffee. They has developed farm practice to be able to solve the problem in productivity, invasion of disease and insect, especially as well as processing method. Finally, the farmer was upgraded to be a specialty coffee producer under brand name Lazy Man Coffee. Now they export to Japan and Korea. The second one was brand Chan Coffee. The young guy who interested to develop and improve himself. When he started to learn about the roasting coffee, he has to drive the motorcycle, drive from his hometown Pamiang in Lampang province, is around about 100 kilometers to my province in Chiang Mai. Nowadays, he has a car and roastery, and he was the lead, and now he was the leadership of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the impact that you have also contributed to. It's very interesting to hear this story from Thailand. Now in Iran, the context, Mariam, the context in which you have been working must be different. So what kind of challenges have you been facing as a woman, especially in scaling up this research that you have been doing to farmers? Please.
Okay. The first challenge I faced was effective communication with farmers, especially smallholder farmers. I wanted to identify the most important problems of farmers, and I needed to be able to communication with them. My biggest challenge in the beginning of my research was accepting myself as a young female researcher in the agriculture community. Since my job was a research and promote scientific findings, I first decided to study rural communities. The Iranian paddy fields have a smallholder system, and I was faced with a large number of paddy farmers. After some initial research, I found a solution to challenge and decided to involve farmers in my research. So about 20 years ago, I would go to the farm with farmers, especially the women farmers. I insisted on the accompanying the farmers, and although I was initially rejected and there was a resistance, I was gradually accepted as a member of their own community, and I was able to effective in this. I identified and categorized the existing problems with the help of farmers, and we conducted research for each them and provide solutions. For example, to release new rice cultivars, we did a participatory breeding. In participatory breeding, we use the cooperation of men and women farmers. And after 12 years, we introduced new rice cultivars that were the result of the joint selection of researcher and farmers. In addition to higher yields, had good cooking quality. This cultivar was welcomed by farmers and increased the Iranian rice production. We did similar work in the field of certified seeds. which was very, very successful. I know the secret to success and overcoming the challenge is to partner with farmers and enter the rural community to identify their problems. Research and innovation in the agriculture community, in addition to science, requires rural sociology. Effective communication with farmers is very, very important. I can say that research and science in agriculture is also an art. Thank you, Martina.
Yeah, thank you, Mariam. No, it's really amazing to see, and you are actually the proof of it. You know, what happens when you involve multiple stakeholders in research, and especially farmers. So it's really an amazing development. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Now, in terms of extension, we continue with these issues. Sailabala, in India, you have been working with farmers and local partners in innovative ways through Pradhan. You have been helping them build local capacities for innovation. So what kind of challenges did you face as a woman that is trying to build these capacities on the ground? Saila, to you.
Yeah, thank you, Martina. Actually, working in the grassroots and that to a remotest area, and when a woman took this choice, so she gets lots of rejection from the family, and family friends don't accept this. So this type of struggle is there. And once a woman is decided and started continuing work in the field, particularly in the extension, then you face several type of customary, cultural, and social barriers to push the gender equality agenda. And even if you then start and working hard, and you will find that there is lack of mindset across different tiers to reduce the gender gap between men and women at the individual level, at the community level, and at the stakeholder level. And in India, there are so many progressive policies, acts are in place, but there is lack of that intent to implement it, and there is a gap between the policy and field level implementation. And there are many works going in the grassroots, in the extension, but the model is not localized, and there is lack of ownership on the activities by the rural community. And so there is much dependence on the promoter. So in long run, those type of prototypes doesn't sustain, and community don't take it forward. So in this context, what we do that understanding the root of the problem, and how the women collective can take up those activity, and how women collective can orchestrate multidimensional change in the collective, and how they can come up with a localized model with support system that is very much inbuilt in the community itself, like women entrepreneur, women land experts, women mobile-based application master, that type of persons. So when those type of persons are built in the community, then they take up this process for a long run, and there is change in the processes. Thank you, Martina.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's really great to see the involvement of women in finding these different solutions to all these numerous challenges that you have mentioned. And of course, there must be many more. Yeah, thank you, Saila. Now in Bhutan, Tanka, have you been facing similar challenges, or are they different?
Some of the major challenges we face are, I have just listed some, although they are not in thing, but let me just, the first one is inadequate innovations or new technologies, particularly for value addition of farm produce, including processing, packaging. Besides, efficient marketing of agricultural produces is challenged due to high cost of transportation, difficulty in aggregating viable volume for marketing due to isolated and rugged mountains and terrain. Although we can put our innovation in practices, and then we can, farmers will produce, but because of this marketing issues, we face challenges To overcome this, we have facilitated farmers group formation, linking to institutions like schools where the demand is a bit high. And we have also done some capacity building through farmers training, including farmers, youth, school dropouts, and on packaging, product diversification, labeling, and grading. That is one. I also had the solution and also that issues. So second one is quite important is human wildlife conflict. It still prevails as one of the major challenges in farming in our country. Both men and women.
Sorry, Tanka, can you please repeat? Because I think, yeah, you need to be closer to the microphone. What was the second challenge? Can you?
Sorry. Human wildlife conflict.
Okay.
It still prevails in our country as a major challenge in farming. Both men and women spend significant time in guarding the crop from wildlife, which often leads to social problem as well. For this, we have promotion of electric fencing to keep out wild animals from damaging the crop at national level, but the impact is mixed. In the project site, we have innovated some like plastic pole, SDP pipes to substitute the use of wooden poles for electric fencing, thereby minimizing deforestation. The other problem is farm equipment and machineries based on design for men often leads women from using agricultural machineries. For example, power tiller or big power tiller machineries and all. In addition, the number of viable farm laborers in the rural area is reducing due to increase in rural-urban migration, where mainly men, leading to familiarization of farming. As a solution, we are promoting user-friendly farm machineries like mini power tiller, grass cutter, table oil expeller, rice mill, like that, from the project on subsidy support. The other problem is the farming practices in the country are transferring gradually from subsistence to commercial scale. The challenge in the farming system requires adoption and adjustment of new technology. It is somehow challenged to motivate farmers to readily accept and adopt new farming practices and technologies. So we are doing some technology demonstration, training of the farmers, youth, and schools. And the other problem is the severity of climate change effect as drought, erratic rainfall, seasonal change, and shortage of water, and all that leads to break of pests and diseases. And for this, we also have some climate smart technologies like climate smart irrigation with automation, protected cultivation, adoption of drought-resistant varieties, low-cost water harvesting, water harvesting pond, and we have used all those things. And the last problem I could see as a human is low literacy rate level of rural women also poses a challenge in adapting the technologies, including access to technologies, knowledge of agricultural extension services, and new information as they are engaged in household chores compared to men. So for this, through many of the project always demand like 30% of women participation, women's beneficiaries and all. And we have also generated like video clips in YouTube and all through many projects through in our national language, so that women can also learn so many technologies and innovations. And we will make certain that in future we will keep this intact. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tanka. So we can see that there's also like a lot of involvement of farmers also in Bhutan, which is really, really great. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Now, talking a little bit about institutional changes, I would like to move to the Pacific, and I would like to ask Flavia, so you have been an advocate for institutional change in Kenya, Cambodia, and now in the Pacific. So what kind of challenges did you face as a woman or you have seen in other women that they have been facing in driving innovative processes in agriculture? Flavia, to you.
Thanks, Martina. I think like that my key challenge has been building credibility around my skills, capacities, and roles, and being able to assert myself. And I think that there have been like different factors contributed to that. I'm a woman, and we know that the perception of qualified women in a very technical field is still biased by some gender stereotypes. Maybe my age, the fact that I was coming from a different cultural background, and on top of that, I was also the one to bring the gender topic in the technical space. And we know that it's not always easy to talk about gender issues, and in some cases, I would say that social issues are not considered as like serious as like the more technical scientific ones. So how I overcame these like challenges? I think like there was a moment of self-reflection. I mean, to build my credibility and to gain the credibility from the people I was working with, I had to build trust and to get their trust. So for me, I thought that if I expected the others to be open to embrace a new perspective, I was supposed to do the same, to be the first one to embrace innovation in my work. So for me, actually, innovation has been like a mutual learning experience that relied on a two-way communication. So let's say that I took a step back at the beginning to observe, listening, and learning from the context, from the people I was working with. And I've also created, like, let's say, my own networks of allies, of local experts working in my same field, and so on. And in this moment of let's say of a pause, I also could see what was already there, and in terms of gaps, but also in terms of opportunities. So I didn't start from zero, but I started like integrating gender little by little, step by step, in what it was already there. So I didn't treat gender as a standalone issue or process, but I was integrating gender like in the structure of the organizations and in the skills of the people I was working with, and accompanying them through, let's say, a daily mentorship. So in that way, I think they could have also the opportunity to build their own ownership of the process. And in this way, through this approach, I could really get their trust, and I could build like I could be able to assert myself in that field.
Thank you so much, Flavia, for this reflection. And actually, you also reflected on the soft skills, right? The soft part that is very important, especially in these technical programs. So yeah, thank you so much. We will also have another question on that. Thank you. Ibu Leli from Indonesia. You have been leading capacity development programs on innovation in Indonesia, and you are also very passionate about data, as I mentioned before. So what kind of challenges have you been facing as a woman, or you have also seen in your colleagues, or even the women and men that you have been training, or where you have been leading the training programs? Ibu Leli.
Thanks, Martina. Firstly, I would like to tell you that in the beginning, when I was starting to establish the online system on the extension and training programs, there are 4 challenges that are facing. Yeah, first, regarding to the numbers of the farmers in Indonesia, now we have more than 30 million farmers in Indonesia, and only 25% of the farmers, young farmers. Therefore, 75% of the farmers are old farmers. Therefore, if we try to establish the online system using the digitalization or technology information, so there is the language gap for the old farmers. This is the challenging, and we are trying to develop such of the application and also the system to have the activities in the extension and also the training. The second one, the challenging, is that the limitation or lack of the facilitation for the extension workers in the villages, as well as in the sub-districts in the BPP or in the agriculture extension institution. They don't have the access of internet, as well as they don't have the proper facilitation like computers and other gadgets to connect from the villages or from the sub-district directly using online system to the center. And the third is the lack of limitation for the budget, especially for the services that we have to provide for the extension workers, even the extension workers in the district as well as in the sub-district and the villages to do such kind of activities like field school for the farmers as well as the dam plot area. So those kind of activities, including the limited budget for the quota for the internet. So this is the third challenging at the time when I was developing the system for the online mechanism for the extension and training. And the fourth is the challenging for us is the coordination between center and also the region area. We have 34 provinces in Indonesia and those areas in different islands. And we need more budget if we visit all the areas. So therefore, we need to make a coordination online for all dinas or the branch office of the agriculture, and we have to talk to them and to convince them that the system will be increase the communication between center directly to the extension workers, and also for make the training online system. So for the challenges now, since the COVID-19, we can one by one can be eliminated. And starting in 2020, our government, by looking at our innovation, they realize that since the COVID-19, we need digitalization on the extension as well as training. So therefore, at that time, the government facilitate the technology information infrastructure for all the BPP or the agriculture extension office in the sub-district. So this is, I think, the challenges that we have been facing, and the institutionally now the system have been implemented, and now it is getting used for the farmers, for the extension workers, talking, communication, coordination, training using online system. And now we are establishing many applications for make the reporting of the data directly from the sub-district to the center. Therefore, now the Ministry of Agriculture can have better data for planning as well as for implementing and also evaluation of the agriculture development. So now Indonesia is getting better also that women is get involved in many activities. Hopefully it also will happen in other countries. But now we are trying still to increase the internet access for the East Indonesia, because now in East Indonesia, they are still left behind, like in Papua, in Maluku, Maluku Utara. Those are the location that now we are trying to reach with the internet access and also increasing the training as well as the extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Lali. No, it's really interesting to learn about these challenges in the context of this online system, especially since, you know, for many institutions, this is something, of course, it's a new normal for us. And I'm sure other countries would be very happy to learn from this experience of Indonesia as well. Thank you. So thank you all for this question. We are running out of time, but I can see that we still have over 100 participants with us, which is amazing that all of you have stayed with us. And I would like to ask the same question, our participants, if you would like to share some of your challenges that maybe have not been mentioned yet in your institution, in your country. So dear participants, if you are interested to share with us, please raise your hand and we'll be happy to listen to you as well, very briefly. Excuse me. Is anybody interested to share? Maybe I can ask my colleague Sasireka to help monitor the hands.
So far, we do not have anything raised from the participants.
Sorry, Sasireka, we cannot hear you.
So we do not have anyone raising their hands as of now.
Is there anything in the chat box? If not, then
yeah,
maybe
we do have a hand from Norshida Man.
Okay, yeah, Norshida, you can speak. Please go ahead. You can unmute yourself and put the video on.
I cannot start my video. However, I can speak now. Okay, thank you very much for giving me a chance. I'm Dr. Nosida from University Putra, Malaysia. Okay, women in agriculture in Malaysia also share the same issues and share the same problem like the other countries. Okay, our agriculture dominates by men. However, the function and the role of women in agriculture, we cannot deny it. And then we need to help, we need to educate, we need to build the capacity of the women, so that agriculture extension play their role. Okay, however, you know, the ratio of the number of agriculture extension officers and farmers is very big. So we need to decrease the gap and we need to increase the number of agriculture extension so that we can help the women, especially the women that not lead the farming, but their role is assist their family, assist the business of the family. So by that, maybe women can contribute more to agriculture production or after production. So we also need the women as a researcher in agriculture extension. For now, we not enough in agriculture extension. We do have a researcher in other agriculture, other women topics, but not in agriculture. So I will continue my job in extension and also in research to make sure women's active in agriculture. Thank you very much for giving me a chance.
Thank you, Norsida, for this very interesting intervention and experience in Malaysia, right? And especially you talked about capacity, which is extremely important. Thank you. I can see the hand of Mr. Mahesh Chander. It would be also nice to hear from a man. So may I ask you, Mr. Mahesh?
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to say the same thing, that number of extension agents, women extension agents are very less compared to men. So this problem has already been stated by some of the speakers. So what I feel in India also, so number of extension agents to cater to the needs of the farming community is far less. So this is a policy issue also. We have to increase the number of qualified extension women workers so that they can cater, they can help out, reach to women farmers and those who are in majority. They are in non-formal situation. Formal participation of women is also very low. So we can encourage this one by increasing the number of qualified extension workers, women workers. So thank you very much. Already it has been said by some other speakers also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this intervention. And since we are talking about capacity, I would like to go back to our speakers and maybe ask Ms. Mariam from Iran. Do you think that technical capacity is sufficient for women to succeed in the area of innovation, or are there any other types of skills, behaviors, and attitudes which are required? I mean, we have already kind of touched upon it, but maybe you can share how it is in Iran. Mariam, please go ahead. Hello?
Hello, Martina. Technologies and innovations in Iran for rice production is sufficient, and now no problem for this. And in Iran, of course, we need the import some new varieties for germplasm. Because I'm a breeder and in rice breeding. Okay.
Sorry, Mariam. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. That's really great. But are there any other like non-technical capacities that women?
Technical capacities, for example, mechanization in rice production is in Iran is high, about 30% in transplanting and 80% in harvesting is mechanized in Iran, and it's so okay.
Thank you so much, Mariam. What about in India, Saila? You have been working with farmers, with extension. What kind of other like non-technical skills or soft skills that are needed by these women?
Yeah, thank you, Mariam. Actually, in my experience, technical capacity are required, but not sufficient because many soft skills are required. And when we are saying about social transformation, and bringing social transformation is not an overnight work. And one need to have that passion, that commitment, and engagement over a long period of time. And one need to believe that community is capable, and they have their internal talent, and they can be driver of social change. They can be the driver of social transformation. So one need to believe that community is the driver of social transformation, and extension worker, persons in innovations, development professionals, and they need to work as a catalyst to stimulate that change process. So this thing one need to have. And another thing that when we are making and women collectives in the grassroots, where we are giving so much of technical knowledge and input to them, it is required. But simultaneously, we need to build that extension spirit, that spirit of spirituality, that I and you are equal, extending beyond self, and that type of community feeling is required. And we are also engaging on that soft part, how each and every collective, whether it is a women farmers organization, whether it is a landless group of women. So every collective that need to have that spirit of collective and extending to other women in the deprived situation. And I have seen in many places, I have seen hundreds of violence cases, and those cases are not solved because of the court or police station. That's solved because of the internal capability, how the women collective is dealing with those cases. I have seen forest fire for so many years. It is not technology that is solving the forest fire. It is their village forest governance, the way they are dealing with their forest. So I think it is more required to bring that soft part and bring that perspective and ownership in the community to make the extension works and innovation successful in the ground. Thank you, Martina.
Thank you. So what really needs to be done and by whom to enhance this enabling environment for women to fulfill their potential as innovators and enable them to contribute more meaningfully towards advancing this agriculture innovation agenda? And I think I can ask Flavia as a gender specialist, what is her perspective on this?
Yeah, I think like that in this case, there is no one solution or like one recommendations. I think to create a conducive environment for women to be able to exercise their technical capacity, advance in this field, we really need multiple actions by multiple actors at different levels. So in few words, we will need like a holistic, comprehensive approach that we can achieve like through strategic partnerships and knowledge sharing. Because like an increased technical capacity might not automatically resulted in like an empowering process for women if we don't reshape power dynamics in informal and formal values, so starting from our home and communities. So we know that gender bias and stereotypes still exist and still prevent and limit women in undertaking those careers and also being able to move forward. So we would need to create I think there is in general, there is a need to create time, space, but also reflection for both women and men to unlearn some internalized gender stereotypes and build for them a new narrative. When you ask like if it's enough like for women to have like technical skills, I would say no, it's not enough. I mean, in some cases, women themselves they need to build their own confidence and capacity to be in those space.
Yeah, thank you, Flavia. There's definitely like a lot to learn and explore on this on these issues of like what needs to be done. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and maybe this could be a topic for our next regional webinar, which we may consider. But since we are out of time, please stay with us for another perhaps 15 minutes max, because I would like to ask our participants the last question today to inspire other women. So we have learned that we need to celebrate the female talent, not just today, but really every day, and find opportunities like this webinar or any other opportunities to make these, you know, extraordinary women visible for breaking the ground and inspire change for next generation. So my question to all the speakers is that what would be your one advice, very briefly, if you can tell us, one advice to other women to encourage them to innovate to the area of research and extension? And perhaps I can start with Ms. Tanka in Bhutan. Tanka, what would be your advice to other women?
I'll be very short. First of all, we say we are not gender biased, we don't have gender issues and all. Although there are like, but we really need to not only to another female colleague, but to my head department and all. We really need to do gender mainstreaming in agriculture innovation. Needs to be emphasized to address the power of innovation in agriculture development. To my female colleague, I would advise considering the global scenario and impact of climate change in agriculture and food production. It is highly recommended that the future human resources focus on to generate climate resilient innovations to mitigate the climate change impact, especially for smallholders and marginal human farmers. Since our country, if 62% of the rural population is female. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanka, so much. Kunchatnapa, what would be your advice to women, very briefly? Are you with us, Kunchatnapa?
Yes.
Okay. Please go ahead.
As told in the newly released variety, it's took up to 46 years on breeding program in Thailand. The thing needs to be done in shortcut is more knowledge and create the biotechnology team to be decrease the time for breeding program. The opportunity to develop the knowledge to drive continuous the systematic breeding development and ongoing policy with operating budget. The Department of Agriculture already have MOU on CIFC Lisboa University, which was the world-class organization that have continuously developed coffee variety for more than 67 years. If there is a continuous drive for breeding development and farmer will use the new variety with more productivity. Because coffee is one of plants that can coexist with forest condition. It is one mechanism that help the conserve the development. It will help the slow down of the effect of the climate change of the region, and the impact will contribute the sustainable development goal or SDG number 1, no poverty, and number 8, good job and economic growth, and number 13, climate action. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chatnapa. Dr. Lali from Indonesia, you are very experienced with human resources. So what would you advise women?
Yeah, for all women in the world, you have to be confident if you want to be the innovators, because we can do what men can do. If we lot of learning and also we share our knowledge and sharing what our experience, so we can do what men can do. So if we want to be the innovators, be confident, so we can change the world and we can change our environment and becoming better and better life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lali. Thank you for this inspiration. Dr. Mariam from Iran, what's your advice?
My general advice for all women is to remember how smart and strong you are. There is nothing wrong with making mistakes. Do not be discouraged. Keep going. You will surely succeed. It's enough to be determined and believe is success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Another inspiration. Thank you. Saila from India. What's your advice?
Yeah, being a woman, daughter, wife, and a professional, and it is not an easy job. And I would like to appreciate me and all out there for putting hard to push this gender equality agenda. And at times there are challenges, and we really feel to give up. But I will say never ever give up, because our perspective is bigger than the challenges. And always try to formulate that strategy, always try to bring that platform where multi-stakeholders can join hand in your agenda. And always try to create that evidence on the ground, or gather that evidence from the ground and decodify the evidence to models, and push those models at the system level that can bring a significant impact in a scale on the food security, nutrition security, and gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another inspiration. And last one, Flavia, what's your advice?
My advice is something that I tell myself when it's like in a more difficult time, and it's like where like there are like resistance or backlash is where you are supposed to be. So to not give up, to follow your passion, and to build your support net with other women and men supporting your agenda.
Thank you so much, Flavia. So I think we are almost at the end of the webinar. And before inviting our speakers for the closing statements, I would like to thank all the participants and of course, all the speakers who have accepted our invitation. We have learned really a lot of valuable perspectives and ideas, and we can really say that women are really leading innovation today. It just needs to be appropriately recognized, and the environment needs to be created in which they can really express themselves. I would like to thank APARI, my APARI colleagues, APIRAS and FAO, that have co-organized this event. And we have been very committed to empowering and inspiring women even more. So maybe we will organize more such webinars in the future. So yeah, thank you all very much. And please don't go away. We have our closing session. And I would like to invite my colleague from FAO, Dr. Delgarma Chulumbatar, who is Agriculture Research Officer, if she can share her closing statement. Degi, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Martina. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Martina. Thank you, everyone. This is a super inspiring and exciting event. And I don't know if you need a closing session. All the ladies and including you said it all, and the last words were very inspirational. However, just maybe say briefly, you know, I'm very pleased and honored to be part of this event, and what an excellent and inspiring way to celebrate International Women's Day, and listening to those real stories of women making changes and making difference in various ways. No, I'm here to represent FAO's TAPAES project funded by EU, and we are very happy to be part of this webinar and celebrating you, women in research and extension. Research and extension are, as you know, very much integral part of innovation and innovation systems and processes in various different levels in various ways. No, it is very important that recognize that we play an important role in unleashing innovation in our countries, as well as we play a significant role in accelerating this process. Listening to your stories coming from research and extension side, it reminds me how much research and extension is needed to facilitate innovation, but at the same time, how much research and extension need to work closer, more efficiently and effectively, to pave the innovation pathway to meet needs of rural communities and of men and women. And this extraordinary 6 women said in various ways innovation can occur. No, different challenges that they are facing, and how different types of innovation processes and support they have come up to address those challenges. And Lily, you said that, you know, how innovation is not only about improving productivity, but also improving communication. And you talked a lot about the role of digitalization, how it enabled in Indonesia two-way communication, including a direct line to minister to all extension workers. This must be the only story that exists in the world that the field extension workers have a communication line with the minister. And Chapnapa, you talked about the role of research and the developing such a, you know, new varieties, etc., how they can address field problems such as pest and disease and productivity. And, you know, you must be one of the lucky researchers to be able to witness how your research actually transform real lives on the ground, and the story of young men you talked about. No, this is it takes so much in research to be adopted and adapted and reach impact. And this is nice to see. Researchers actually can see how their work in lab can transform into lives on the ground. In Salila, and your story is amazing also, no? And it also shows a different kind of, innovation is not about only technologies, it's not about production, it's also about how to organize people in a constructive and productive way, how to in a collective action, and also enable them to access productive resources. Then on completely different angle, Flavia, Mariam, you shared your personal challenges and reflections on how you were sort of facing rejections and challenges in your work in agriculture, which is often male dominated, no? To manage that challenge, you had to reflect and build onto your functional, so to speak, functional and soft skills, such as listening and communication and trust building, etc. And this is also a networking. So, you know, as a woman, all these stories show that as women, we face really diverse challenges. And some are technical, some are cultural, and some are about our personalities and our personal competencies and skill sets, no? And we are, women, we are innovative, passionate, and yet we are also very flexible. Nora also pointed out in her speech in the beginning that how some studies show that women delivers better for being more sensitive and flexible and knowledgeable about local context and cultures. However, there are more work to be done, empower and enhance women's contribution in agri-food system transformation. Nora talked about the important role of women and how 50% of agricultural labor is a woman, and share of women in research and extension is how significantly low. Although in research, there is a slight trend that the share of women is increasing, but this trend doesn't reflect in a higher level in decision-making positions. Women still have less influence in policy and decision-making processes, which potentially lead to biased decision-making and priority setting. Gender policies often exist in many countries, but they are often not high on agenda, and lack of awareness of need to address gender gap remain significantly in most countries. So to close such gaps and empower women and enable women to lead transformation in research and extension, and innovation requires, you know, multi-actor and multi-dimensional efforts in various levels. I'd like to thank APARI and APIRAS for this webinar, webinars such as this to raise awareness and share experiences among women and issues of women is very critical. And ladies and gentlemen, women play an important role in achieving SDGs, as Namisha very nicely put in her speech at the beginning. And we need to, I would like to close my remarks by emphasizing need for strengthening soft and functional skills, which drives this process, drives the change and enable women as a catalyst. We have heard from many of you speakers that, you know, it's not so much about the technical skills. We often are very competent and skilled, knowledgeable about our technical areas, but we somehow shy away from other competencies, which helps us to be upfront and drive the change. And with that, I want to mention a tropical agriculture platform, which is hosted in the FAO. And through its TAPAS project, we aim to promote capacity to innovate, including functional capacities, soft skills needed, which are critically needed to facilitate innovation. Please have a look at the TAP website. If you just Google TAP, FAO, you should be able to find it, tropical agriculture platform. And let us continue to take opportunities and develop our skills to overcome challenges we face to grow in our careers and influence higher level decision making. And, you know, there is a saying that there is what does this go? Behind every successful man is a strong woman. I would like to say this to all women in the room, that it is time to come in front, strong and successful, not staying behind the men. So, following many of you who are already up front. So let me just quickly end here. On behalf of FAO, I would like to thank APARI and APIRAS for organizing such a wonderful webinar and on such a significant day. And also, and very special thanks to all extraordinary 6 speakers. Your personal stories were really remarkable and very touching. And thank you very much, Martina, for your excellent facilitation. Or back to you, Martina. Thank you.
Thank you, Degi. Thank you so much for this excellent wrap-up and reflection over the content of the webinar and these inspirational words that I'm sure have been motivating our participants even further. And for the next statement, I would like to invite Dr. Ravi Ketarpal, who is the Executive Secretary of APARI, to provide some brief closing remarks. Ravi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Martina. Well, I'll be very brief. First of all, after the First World War, when 3 million Russian men were killed, it was the women who came forward, who fought for bread and peace. And the day they came forward has become the International Women's Day, which probably most of you know. That was 8th March in Gregor calendar. So now, from that time till today, since the Russian women actually highlighted the importance of women, how they can manage the society, I think we have come a long way. We have maintained, we have improved a lot. The presentations were excellent, very inspiring, and very innovative. But what actually surprised me was 80% of the participants were women. Actually, when women speak, men should listen. Men listen to them at home, but why not professionally? That was my problem. Anyway, that's a lighter side of it. I wish more men have joined this webinar than women. My analysis showed with the name of gender as I have, it is 80% women who were there. So that was something which I felt, but anyway, women in research and extension, when we do research, what we need patience and commitment. No, who has it more? It is women. When we do extension, what we need? A good communication skill, a good networking skill. Who has it more? It is women. It is globally known. When we do innovation, who does it more? Who does multitasking at home and does a lot of innovative things, have so much of functional skill which are never documented? It is women again. Women by genetic makeup and by their own configuration, I think are a species which are born to excel. And there have been social and cultural barriers which stop them. I think the society is changing. After listening to 5 very inspiring presentation by 5 extraordinary women from the region, I see the future of women much more than when it was before. How APARI is working, why we are an efficient regional network. We have more women than men. And Martina, Sasi, Nora, you are examples here. So there are more. So I don't want to highlight much what the extraordinary things were presented by the women speakers in their talk show. I may like to say I was very pleased to see our executive committee members of APARI joining, and they were again women. Khun Margaret, Ms. Hildegard Lindnau from GFAR, Global Farm Agriculture Research, and they are both women in very big positions, very sound position. Of course, we also got Dr. Turash Valina Saab from RU Iran. I thank them also for really joining. And I would really thank at the end, apart from speakers and participants and all my colleagues, my special thanks goes to EPIRAS for co-organizing. Namisha and Rashid have done excellent collaboration with us always. And our grateful thanks to Tropical Agriculture Platform of FAO, which Degi just mentioned. And thanks to Degi for really overviewing this whole program and bringing it to a stage where it went very well. My final point is there were a large number of applicants here. Many of them were not shortlisted to be among the 5 to speak. It does not mean they were less than anyone. it was something we had to keep a regional bias. We had to keep the variety of subjects. We had to keep the kind of a demographic spread, regional spread from South, Southeast Asia, Pacific and all. So it doesn't mean anyone who could not be selected was like neglected or rejected. You all are equally good, and salute to all the women on this Women's Day. Thank you, Degi, for giving an extraordinary closing remark. Thanks, Martina, for excellently moderating the show. Thank you on behalf of APARI to one and all.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Thank you for these inspiring words. And the last speaker today is going to be Dr. Rashid Sulaiman, who is the director of CRISP in India and head of APIRAS. Rashid, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, I will be very brief because after I think a good wrap up by Degi and I think the inspiring words of Ravi, I don't have much to add, but I would like to formally thank the organizers, especially Martina, Nora, and Shashireka from APIRAS, and my colleague Namisha Mitchell from CRISP and APIRAS, and also Degi, I think as part of the Tropical Agricultural Platform TAP AIS project for being part of this program and successfully organizing this event. It was very interesting to listen to the personal experience of research and extension managers, key people in the region, and listening to their success and also the kind of the challenges they have faced. And I wish we will be organizing, probably we will organize more such interesting sessions with APARI in future. And thank you all the participants and the panelists and the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rashid, for your final words. And here, I think we are at the stage when we are going to close the webinar. So thank you. Thanks all of you, including the speakers and our collaborators, our partners, our participants, and of course, also my colleagues who are working behind the scenes, like Pooja, Sa, Nui, Sasireka, and many others. Sorry if I don't mention you, but we appreciate your support as always. So thank you so much, and please join us again in the future. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Excellent work.
Bye.
Thank you.